Good evening and welcome to yet another exciting episode of
BAMBOOZLED,
where we tell you how you've been lied to, tricked, bamboozled by the media, by the government, and others for decades, but no more. We're here to expose the truth, and tonight we've got a lot of truth to expose. So stay tuned, buckle your seatbelts, and get ready for a ride. Ryan, what are our housekeeping items tonight?
we want to thank everybody for being here again with us on BAMBOOZLED this week and let you know that still to this day, our Facebooks are gone. We probably will not be going back to Facebook, even if they decide to turn it back on for the conservatives that have been deleted. So we ask for your help if you can help share out this link on YouTube. I know we're on Twitter, Twitch, Periscope, right? So if you can help us to share this out, put the link on your Twitter page, or if you have Facebook still, share it out so we can kind of, reach a larger audience that way. We would greatly appreciate that. We've had a lot of great things happening with rallies and a lot of engagement around the state of Michigan and around the country now with everything that's happening with the election. We appreciate continued donations to the APC. So thank you to everybody out there that has recently donated to the APC. All of that money goes right back into our cause to help pay for continuing to get our word out. And the mission of the American Patriot Council is to restore and sustain a constitutional government in the United States of America. And Jason, on that note, we are seeing some things happen right now across the United States that are very unconstitutional. We're seeing more lockdowns start. We're starting to see gathering sizes restricted again, right? Now that Joe Biden's kind of like, well, maybe he's not going to be the president, right? Maybe Trump might win after all. Now COVID's making this roaring comeback and all these lockdowns and everything. What do you got to add to that one?
All right. So, we've got the lockdown thing. Make sure you stay tuned to the website, AmericanPatriotCouncil.org, AmericanPatriotCouncil.org. If somebody can put that up in the comments, I'll put it on the screen. The criminal watch list has grown. We're going to see some more letters going out this week in the next few days to the out there to the DOJ and the FBI and some of our law enforcement, calling for some of these other confirmed criminals to be arrested and held accountable. So make sure you're on the website. If you in your town, in your city, or somewhere nearby, you know of somebody who's breaking these codes or breaking these laws, please add them to the criminal watch list. Understand it does take a little time for us to confirm, but we are working on it. We've had a ton going on with the election and everything going on, but they are starting to do these things again. Remember, 18 USC 241. 18 USC 241 is one that you should look at right away. If they're limiting assembly out in California, they're talking about you can only have like 8 people in your house or something. You got to sit in circles like the Joe Biden rallies and stuff. All of that stuff is conspiracy against rights if two or more people signed those orders or sent those orders out or worked to enforce them. So make sure you get that stuff done. And with that, let's get into the show for tonight. I want to show you guys something we had on the show a week ago. And I just want to play a clip. It's going to be super short, but here it is.
Begging for food, begging for money. Madam Speaker, thank you so much.
At them, we feed them. We feed them.
We'll continue.
What the hell?
You're muting yourself there, Jason. What? Yeah.
That's what I really wanted to show you guys. That's the only clip from that little exchange between Wolf Blitzer and Nancy Pelosi. I wanted to show you. What's going on is Wolf, one of the crazy liberal pundits, is going, Nancy, when are you guys going to pass a stimulus? What's going on here? There's people actually begging me for money as I come into work, and Wolf is like concerned for these people. And and kind of shows that old school liberal mentality where they don't agree with us, but they still want America to succeed almost, which I was proud of Wolf for that. And Nancy's response is, listen, we feed them. And she gets all upset and treats him like an employee and starts going, we feed them. Have you fed them? We feed them. And really, I think, Ryan, Nikki, what do you think? I think that fits right into the theme of fascism or fascist leadership, isn't it?
Indeed, it is. Indeed, it is. I also saw, as far as being told what to do, the CDC wants to tell you how many people you should have at your house for Thanksgiving.
Right.
Is that a thing?
Well, keep in mind, the legislature, we have a legislature. They're the only ones that can make laws. Keep that in mind. You're watching. Hey guys, listen. I want to remind you of this as we move on. I want you to make sure and share this. Click the links. Put it on your Twitter. Retweet it if you see it on Periscope or on Twitter. Retweet this. Send it out. Send it via text message. Whatever you got to do, because this is our way of getting back at Facebook. They wanted the American Patriot Council wiped out. They canceled all of us. They deleted everybody. The night before our last event, they deleted over 100 people that night at midnight. They also sent out notifications that are successful, by the way, Mark. Our event was successful, that it was canceled, and it wasn't. And so it went on. But we want to keep going on without worrying about Facebook. So help us share this out. Get the message out there. We are here to stay. The American Patriot Council is going to restore and sustain a constitutional government with your help in the United States of America. So anyhow, I want to do another screen share. I want to read something to you, and this will kind of kick off the conversation a little bit here. Let me bring this up. So this is the definition of fascism. So let's get a good definition of what that is. A political philosophy, movement, or regime that exalts nation and often race above individual, that stands for a centralized autocratic government headed by a dictatorial leader, severe economic and social regimentation, and forcible suppression of opposition. So let's start with the first few words, and I'll turn it over to you, Ryan. When we look at exalts nation, and then you skip over race for right now. We'll come back to race in a second. Nation over individual. Explain what that is.
So to kind of, dive into this and try to, pull it all together quickly, right? In the United States of America, we have a constitution that is very individual liberties and freedoms, right? We have unalienable rights that are granted to us. And so I think that's kind of a little bit of that, the individualism that comes in America there, those individual rights versus, we talk about exalts nation. And, some of those things we can see with like the Antifa movement, where they're kind of like all one unit. That's kind of how it operated in Chaz. And I think that's a great segue to talk about, when we look at this fascism definition and we talk about fascism, and fascists, right? And we have this group called Antifa. If we look at the last line of this definition here, forcible suppression of opposition, right? What have we seen this year from these groups, right? Portland, Oregon, Seattle, Washington, many other places. I mean, these riots that have come from these BLM demonstrations and these Antifa gatherings, they're kind of mixed together. And if you follow our show, for a while, that we weren't on air last week. Jason and I were actually in Detroit face to face, kind of down in the trenches with Antifa and BLM. And they were calling us all sorts of names. It got very heated. There was mace that was sprayed everywhere. So things got very interesting, but that's their tactics, right? The forcible oppression of their opposition. So that very Antifa, anti-fascism, they are actually using projection, just like the alt-left Democrats. They use projection with everything that they do. And it's the forcible suppression of their opposition, right? And we're seeing that now with like the silencing of conservatives, right?
Yeah, and to add to that, this is something I'd like to add to that. Now we move on. Nation and often race, right? And that starts, we can think that back to the biblical times where for throughout history, the Jewish race has been singled out by fascists, right? Since Babylon and beyond. And so Hitler. And then we look at now. And I want to ask you a question. My conservative friends watching, and if you're a liberal that's watching and you're going to make fun of us, that's cool too. But before you do, I want to ask you this question, Nikki, Ryan: how often do conservatives sit around and talk about race?
Nope.
It's not really a topic for us. That's not.
It only comes up when the left, and this is where conservatives, you've got to get better at this. When the left calls you a racist, don't even acknowledge it. Don't defend yourself. Defending yourself sounds like a kid who broke something and the parents like, hey, how'd that get broken? I didn't do it. Just ignore them. The racist thing is nonsense. It's projection. It's self-projection. And exactly, it is, Mike, the DNC platform.
Yeah, Mike.
So they put race above individuals. Look at what you're seeing at these riots. Look at what you're seeing in with George Floyd, for example. He was an individual, and whatever you believe happened to George Floyd, race was put above all of that.
Yep.
His death had nothing to do with anything. Nobody cared on the left about his soul or his death or any of that. What they cared about was using his race. Please share, Margene. Thank you. Using his race to rev up fascist activity. So again,
that's where we're going to use our term here. We've been bamboozled in this country by thinking that Antifa is fighting fascist, right? All these projections, right? Absolutely been bamboozled, right? That is the very definition, just like Mike just said a minute ago. That's the DMC's platform, is to project those things, right? Oh, conservatives are the racists. Gosh, really, guys? Right? Let's take a closer look at that. I mean, I can just pull examples out of, when we were in Detroit last week, Jason, and we don't need to dive into that. We can keep moving and whatnot here. But, we've been bamboozled into, I guess not us, not the critical thinkers. A lot of people on this show probably already understand a lot of this, but the mainstream media is bamboozling people into thinking these things with these projections that they have, that the alt left is something other than what they're claiming other people to be.
Indeed. I got a screen share. Is it a good time to?
Yeah. Let's pop what you got up there, Nikki. I'll remove mine.
I'd like to
while
read
you're
it.
getting that ready, I'll just top that last statement off a little bit with the fact that we live in a country that's about individual liberties, right? As we talk about all the time, the Constitution was written painstakingly to create individual liberty. And so when you see fascism is the opposite of that, it's taking the group over the individual. It's taking the race over the individual person. So it puts other things up there. This is something that Nikki, talk to me. What is this?
I would love to read this. Please. And I had no clue, as some of you know, I don't really identify with the whole color thing. This is from a Black Agenda report. Bill Hewer actually sent this to me. And what I'd like to read is, the term systemic fascism may seem redundant to some, but the redundancy has become necessary to combat the individualistic modes of thinking that have trapped much of the American public. This framing tendency has never been more evident than in the liberal obsession with Trump, the individual. Even among sectors of the left who have joined in the liberal chorus, everything has become about Trump. Trump the racist, Trump the fascist. Trump is destroying America. Trump is an embarrassment to the highest office in the land. Our problems are all due to Trump.
Yeesh.
These sentiments are the result of a collective myopia that is produced by capitalist culture and its hyper focus on the individual, a key propaganda tool that is used to not only obscure the reasons that most of us struggle, but also to avoid any sort of collective solution to our problems.
Wow.
And I just read that and it was like, bam, right there.
That is the definition of fascism. It's collective solution of our problems. Nikki, could you put that back up for a second? There was a couple of things I wanted to highlight, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Wow.
So yeah, this is what I was going to say. So here, Trump is an embarrassment, myopia to capitalist culture that is hyper-focused on the individual. You see this? This is Marxism. This is what leads to communism. This is what leads to fascist control of people. Because what they want to do is make the group more important than you. And that sounds, on paper and in some kind of utopia sense, it sounds like a good idea. But I want to ask you this question: has it ever worked? Because let me ask you this, and I'll put it to you this way: have you ever seen 30 people in a room with no leader with a task to do?
Nothing gets done.
Until what?
Until someone decides to take the lead, and the buffoon's over here, who's serious over here, and whoever wants to do nothing, there's the door.
Right, but that's why individual liberty works, because the leaders lead and the followers follow, but the followers need someone to follow, because if they don't, they'll lead. But that's also why dictatorial governments and autocratic governments and fascist governments work, because if they just say, I'm the leader, and they impose their strength upon them, and I'm not talking about strength as in strengths and weaknesses, good thing. I'm talking about their military strength or their psychological strength or both. And let me tell you, Hitler used a lot more psychological warfare on his people than he did actual physical warfare. Even though he killed millions, he still convinced millions more to not do what they did. And Mike has a great point. This is where we get into that what we were talking about earlier, that the fascist left is the perfect example of self-projection. They have continually called Trump and his supporters fascists and racists while behaving as fascist and racist themselves over and over again. Over and over again. Mike is right. It was the Democrats who fought the 13th Amendment and the Civil Rights Movement and the Act of 1967. It was the Republicans that got those things done. That is the truth. Yet nobody knows these things because those truths never get spoken by who?
Exactly. When you start talking truth, people have a tendency to they dissipate. They go away. They want to argue with you. They want to blah blah blah. Yeah, media, exactly.
The media will not tell. The media will not talk about what Mike just put on the screen there, because the media, that doesn't work. See,
doesn't fit the narrative.
It doesn't fit the narrative that Trump and his supporters are racist and fascist and all these things. But let me explain something to you. Trump is hated so much because he is not under the control of whoever they want. And this is my picture. I want to show you real quick something. This is who I'm trying to find. Somebody tell me who this is. This is the person that's really pulling the strings on the left. That's what we know about him. Because it's not Joe Biden, it's not Kamala Harris, it's not Nancy Pelosi or Hillary Clinton. All evil people. But those aren't the ones. They're not the gray person that's pulling the strings out there. And so somebody please tell me who that one person is. And I don't think it's George Soros. I think he's not a good guy, but I don't think he's the one designing all of this. See, what happened to Hitler, and this is going back to fascist leaders, what happened to Hitler has happened to almost every fascist leader by the end of their life. And so whoever this fascist leader is, or small group of fascist leaders possibly, whoever they are, don't want to be out in the open. They want to stay the gray man because this is the new twist that they're putting on the old thing. Everything else is working the same. But I'm interested, guys, if you have any thoughts on the media and why they're not telling the truth. What is the purpose? What do you think, Nikki? I'll ask you first, and then I'll ask you, Ryan, because I don't know. I think I know what your opinions might be. Why is this election going like this?
I think there's a few reasons why. It's like the snowball's been running down the hill for so long. They want to see how much bigger it can get. And just like how they're you haven't heard about lockdowns, you haven't heard about COVID, you haven't heard any of this stuff in a while. Then all of a sudden the election, oh wait a minute, because Trump won Tuesday. And then Wednesday morning Biden won. Is that am I on to it?
Yeah. Well, yeah. So why do you think they're doing this? Do you think? Let me just ask this question, Ryan, of you. Do you think that they're really? And I haven't decided, so I don't know. But do you think that they really think that Biden won, or they really think that they're going to steal the election? A better way to put it.
It's hard to really understand from which direction the Democrats are coming here, because we know since the beginning of 2020, there has been constant bamboozlement coming from state governors, secretary of states, AGs, all across the spectrum there. There's been just, lie after lie, bamboozlement after bamboozlement. So as we lead up into this election, we see this whole mail-in ballot scheme that turned into this massive fraud, right? And if we go back in time a little bit in Bamboozled, I know maybe 6 weeks ago or something like that on the episode, you even called it too, Jason. You said, watch, they are going to pretend on the media that Joe Biden won the presidency, right? And you even went as far too, Jason, as saying that, they might even set up like a little Oval Office, maybe a little spot in his basement where, they pick it up. So here's the thing. What have we seen? We've seen this whole year, right? Be afraid, be very afraid. COVID's coming to get you. Right? This whole fear mongering, constantly like feeding all of this to you, training your brain that what the media says has to be true. Don't worry about the facts. Don't look up what the death rate and fatality to COVID might be. Don't look up what, God forbid, the Constitution, right? Can we peacefully gather or not? No, you can't, because some stupid executive order that's not even law. Anyways, running off on a tangent, but what we're getting to here, they've been conditioning your mind. They've been bamboozling the entire nation all year long, knowing that when election time came around, if we tell them now, hey, Joe Biden won, right? They're going to believe that. That's what they're going to see, right? That's what they plaster up on the wall there. Joe Biden, president-elect. Speaking to you guys from the office of president-elect, right? And so many people are buying it up. Now, on the flip side of that, right, we see all the riots that have happened and everything this year. Are we getting the emotion up really high and then a Trump win and it falls down? What is going to be the reaction from the alt-left violent militias, the Antifas and the BLMs, right? So what really is the plan? It's kind of hard to say what they really see unfolding, if they were honestly trying to steal it or if they were honestly just trying to cause chaos and disruption in our great republic here.
Didn't one of the BLM leaders, it seems like it's a female, I don't get into their crap, but it seems like one of them is just like, hey, Biden, we got you all these votes out here. We did what you told us to do. Where's the money? Where's the payoff?
There's a letter I saw the other day that came from BLM to the office of the president-elect, which I laugh every time I hear that, because that is the basement that I was talking about. You guys, if you didn't see the show like 3 weeks ago, whatever week Amy Coney Barrett was being confirmed, we called it on the show. We talked about this. We said they're going to pretend he won the election. I said that's why they keep saying that he needs her in the Supreme Court, because if he doesn't agree to a peaceful transfer of power, they said it like 55 times or something during the confirmation hearing. And the reason was because they planned this out back then. So now here's the question that I have, right? Bamboozled, right? Here's the question that I have. Were they planning this to actually try and steal the election. I think that's their second goal. I think that's like their what do you call it, a stretch goal. In business, you got like, you want to hit 3 million this year, but your stretch goal is 4 or 5, right? So the stretch goal was to steal the election. The actual feet on the ground, what they believe they're going to do, what they're going to cause to happen goal, I believe, is civil unrest like America has never seen since the Civil War. I think that what they want to do is have all these people that are out dancing in the streets. I think some of them even took their mask off for a minute to celebrate.
Oh,
but they're out there dancing in the streets, right? And they're all partying. Well, what are they going to do when they find out that Trump really won the election?
Ooh.
It's not going to be pretty. Why do you think they haven't taken all the boards off the buildings yet?
And Walmart, took their didn't they take their ammo and their guns off of display? You can still buy them, but you have to ask for them. You can't see them anymore. Did I hear that right?
I think I don't know if all Walmarts did that or not. I haven't been to a Walmart.
I don't do
it, but
yeah, I think it's everything that we said and more.
But that's right. And so now we look at that. So let's take a look at how they got us here, right? COVID is obvious. I talked about this at one of our rallies. I said they created an invisible monster and a very visible hate. And they gave you a choice. You can choose the monster and hide under your bed, or lock yourself in your home and wait for them to take care of everything, which is what they really want. That is tyranny. That is fascism. They do everything. We just wait on them, right? Yep. The next thing that they gave you the other choice was to take that very hate you could taste right now in this country, and take that hate and go out in the streets and throw bottles at cops and burn down buildings. And then what they did was fuel it with these murders, right? All of a sudden, every time a cop shoots anybody in the line of duty doing their job, they amplify this thing because they want the unrest, right? So now let's look at something. I want to show you. This is South Dakota. South Dakota hasn't had any riots that I know of. I don't know if you guys have heard of anything like that out there. But this is their law, 22-10-1, riot violation as a felony. Used in this chapter, any intentional use of force or violence by 3 or more persons acting together without authority of law to cause any injury to any person or any damage to property is riot. A violation of this is a felony. It's a class 4 felony. Pay attention to that. Some states use letters like A, B, C, D. Obviously, South Dakota uses numbers 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4 is a lower felony, right? 1 would be a class 1 felony, would be a really high felony. Now let's look at Oregon. Oregon, a person commits the crime of riot while participating with 5 or more people. So there's a small difference. The persons engage in tumultuous and violent conduct and thereby intentionally or recklessly create a grave risk of causing public harm. Basically a different way of saying the same thing, except for you have to have 5 people in Oregon, right? But we've seen massive riots all through Oregon all year, right?
Yep.
100 and some odd days.
Yep.
Yeah, and they haven't even had the cops shooting people in Oregon. They don't need to. They just got riots. But why is it so different in Oregon compared to South Dakota? They have the same law. How come if you have the same law in Oregon as you do in South Dakota, the riots happen crazily in Oregon, but not in South Dakota?
I think there's 2 things that we can talk about, and we can segue into that. And one of those, a lot of it comes down to leadership, right? We see that the leadership, for example, in South Dakota doesn't put up with that nonsense. Just like I'm going to give a shout out to the Detroit police, because y'all rock. You guys do not play around, right? I think that don't let me get too far off onto this. I think the Detroit police should be an example of how we need to fund the police around the country and utilize the model that they do, because they don't put up with any crap. Now, maybe there's more I got to learn about the Detroit police, but shout out to you guys, because you know what's up and you know how to keep law and order. But second of all, I think a little bit to on what you're going to segue into, Jason, and I'll pass it back over to you to kind of explain. Portland has had poor leadership, right? Oregon has had poor leadership. They refuse to acknowledge this, right? They continue to aid and abet these violent alt-left militias that are destroying the cities. These extremists that continue night after night to set things on fire and destroy the property. But also, they just recently decriminalized basically all substances. Such as methamphetamine and heroin. And, I think that might have something to do with some of this when you get these people jacked up on this crazy stuff, but they've literally decriminalized it. So you want to take it from there and kind of dive into
that's where we're going to go right after this. But I want to take you back to why that first difference that you made. The first difference that you made was really important. And the shout out to the Detroit police was great because they haven't had any riots in Detroit, by the way. Grand Rapids did, Lansing did, Detroit didn't have any. Craig did a great job the way he handled his thing. But I mean, literally, when they maced those guys, about 60 cop cars were there in less than a minute. And there was already a good 50, 60 cops there on scene, hanging out, being cool, talking. They really worked well with the community. So I wanted to throw that in there. But here's the reason I'm throwing that in there. They were on top of it. If anyone was going to commit any violence, they were going to be there right now. Now, out in Oregon, what they did was surrender. In Minnesota, what they did was surrender. So when you have mayors and governors that pull the police, basically they pull the police away in these scenarios. And I'm going to take you to a criminal code real quick that I want to share as we get to this, and we'll get back to the drug thing in just a second. But here we have misprision of treason, and I don't know if I'm reading misprision right. Whoever owing allegiance to the United States, that would mean a citizen, having knowledge of the commission of any treason against them, conceals and does not, as soon as may be, disclose and make known the same to the president or to some judge of the United States or governor or judge or justice in a particular state, is guilty of misprision of treason and shall be fined or imprisoned not more than 7 years. Let's look at this one, though. A rebellion and insurrection. This is 18 USC, and there's some different codes here. We got 2383, 2382, 2384. They all go together, and I really recommend that you all go read these on your own. As we always tell you, get familiar with this stuff. Don't think I typed this up and made it look like U.S. codes or something. This is the real stuff. Whoever incites, sets on foot, assists, or engages in any rebellion or insurrection against the authority of the United States or the laws thereof, that means state laws too, or gives aid or comfort thereto, shall be fined under this title or imprisoned not more than 10 years or both, and shall be incapable of holding office in the United States. So the reason I bring this up is because, do you think, and I'll ask you guys, I have my opinion, and it's probably bent real strong to law and order, but do you guys think that when a governor and a mayor tell the police to stand down while people are breaking the law, that is assisting them in their rioting?
Indeed.
And let me ask you this question then. If in Chaz, they said they had a different country, right?
What the hell?
They did, yeah. Brand new sovereign land right here in the United States.
Is that
downtown Seattle.
Is that a rebellion or insurrection?
I think if you ask the Magic 8 Ball, the answer would be all signs point to yes.
All signs point to yes. And so let me ask you this question. Are the governor and the mayor of Seattle then, and other places, but let's start with them because it's so obvious, then guilty of seditious conspiracy, which is the one I just read?
Wow.
You see, those governors that are telling the police to stand down, USC, guys, somebody put this in the comments for me. USC, 18 USC 2384. 18 USC 2384 puts these governors and these mayors and these people, these decision makers, not the police following the orders, but the decision makers telling people to stand down, telling people that they should not enforce the law, are guilty of seditious conspiracy to commit treason in the United States of America. Now, I want to move up to just treason all by itself, because this is important, and we have a lot of this going on right now, and I think the election is going to put this in. Somebody else put 18 USC 2381. Whoever, let me pull it up for you, because I want you to read this. 2381. Whoever, owing allegiance to the United States, levies war against them or adheres to their enemies, or adheres to their enemies. Or adheres to their enemies,
Woo!
giving them aid and comfort within the United States or elsewhere, is guilty of treason and shall suffer. Read that for me, somebody. Shall suffer. What's this word right here? DEAT. Does that say death? It does. It says death. Okay. Or shall be in prison not less than 5 years and fined under this title, but not less than $10,000, and shall be incapable of holding office in the United States. So, depending, I think, on whether it's high treason being the leader of a plan to overthrow the United States government, Joe Biden. And the Democratic Party in general, then that is treason. And we have treason is basically that there is no way to do treason without being fascist. Not in America, because when you commit treason in America, you are taking freedom and individual liberties from people. And anybody can correct me if I'm
bamboozling them.
Bamboozled.
Right.
Bamboozled.
So now back to what Ryan kind of alluded to a minute ago. These, and guys, I want you to check this out, because I didn't believe it. When I saw Andy Ngo on Twitter, if you're not following him, follow him. He does great journalism. But Andy Ngo, NGO, he posts these every week, the different rioters that get arrested. By the way, 99% of these have been released without bail. Just so you know, they're letting them go back out onto the streets.
And
but these are the people. These are the people that are rioting out in Oregon. And I want you to go and type in Oregon riot mugshots and look, because the stories will actually open up to these people being in Oregon. It's not me pulling up pictures of crazy people and saying this is the ones. These are the actual rioters. Look, Oregon man with bizarre mugshot series. They want to hurt us, but first defund the police, meet Antifa. And if you open the story, I read it earlier, it's in Oregon. Most of these are Oregon, some are in Seattle. But you see these people. These are the ones that are rioting out in the streets out there and getting arrested. And so I want you to understand who we're dealing with. Now, what do you think of when I put those shots up there, Nikki, Ryan? If I didn't tell you those were rioters, what would you think?
I would
think this is the cover story for the prayer group, the prayer request line, the hotline.
Yeah, true, but what do you think they would be arrested for if you had to take a guess?
Drugs.
Drugs, right? Drugs. No doubt about it, right? Because I want to show you what meth had. You guys have all seen, like, they used to do it on 60 Minutes or something, and they would put up the meth heads. And I have experience, like personal experience. I know about meth, guys. I have a past. I'll tell you about it some other time. But here is what meth does to people. Now, do you think these people would fit in with these people?
Wow.
But I want to show you, the reason I'm showing you these Antifa people that look like they're strung out on heroin and methamphetamines, and that's not me judging them. That's actually looking at their physical appearances and saying, hey, guys, this is meth. Meth does this to people. meth makes people look like this. Meth makes a guy look like that. Okay, like normal life doesn't make somebody look like this. You know, being poor or mad at the government doesn't make your eyes go crossed and you have no idea where you are while they're taking your mugshot. It just, that doesn't, drugs do that. So I want to show you what they did in Oregon recently. Let's see if okay, yep. Oregon, drug decriminalization. Oregon has become the first state in the nation, listen to how CNN likes to word this, by the way, the first state in the nation to decriminalize the possession of all drugs. The possession of all drugs. Now, possession of drugs such as heroin, cocaine, and methamphetamine will no longer be punishable by jail time, but instead amount to something similar to a traffic ticket.
Oh.
Now, the only difference between this and a traffic ticket is that for a traffic ticket you don't pay, they can still put you in jail if you don't pay your ticket and they arrest you on the warrant. But if it's non-jailable offense, I think there's just no penalty. If they don't pay their fines, they can't arrest them. What are they going to do to them? Give them another fine that they won't pay?
Right.
So this and CNN is talking about this is how you end the war on drugs. Now, and you notice they got all their ballot paraphernalia here and all this stuff. But let me ask you guys a question. If somebody is hopelessly addicted to drugs, what can you do to make them do things you want them to do?
Give them a free pass.
Or give them free
Let them re-up.
drugs, right? Give them money to buy drugs, right? Pay them $100 and they will burn down your city for you. Pay them $200. Pay a person who needs heroin or is going to get dope sick a few $100, and they will go start a forest fire. We talked about the guy a few weeks ago who was caught throwing Molotov cocktails off the side of the highway. They arrest him, let him go without bail, and 2 hours later he starts 6 more fires. Do you think that this, I'm going to pull up a screen share again just because I think this is important. Do you think that this guy, let's say this one right here with the triangle head, this guy is thinking to himself, you know, I really hate America today and I'm going to go throw some Molotov cocktails into the woods? Or is he thinking, how am I going to get high in the next 2 hours? What do you think's a more likely thought that guy's having?
How's it going to get high?
I think he's probably wondering how he's going to get high in the next couple hours, right? Or maybe if we look at these people, what is she looking for right now? What's this guy? I mean, he looks a little shaded right now. I mean, so the reason I'm asking is because this person wants to re-up. They need the drugs. They believe they need the drugs. They don't need the drugs, but they believe they need them. So if you wanted to create a society in which you could control people and get them to do great acts of violence, to become an army for you, if you got them hooked on drugs and you gave them enough and you kept the drugs going into their city. And remember, in that law, what I didn't read to you guys, and you guys can check it out, there's all kinds of stuff online about it. It's small amounts, which actually makes it easier for drug dealers to go out in Oregon and deal small amounts. Because when you give small amounts, they come back for what?
Come back for more fast.
They come back for more. So they come to whoever's handing them this money and they say, hey, man, I need some more money. What do you need? What do you need? What do you need? And then our buddy here with the blue hair goes out and they say, well, I'll tell you what, I'll give you $100 and I'll give you all $100 and it'll rain heroin in downtown Portland if you guys can go just maybe burn a couple stores down or something. Right? And at this point, that's right. Dangerous kind of army. They don't care. Margene, you're right about that. They don't care at this point. All they want is those drugs. And here's the other part. Now, tie that together with no consequences anymore. Mm-hmm. Tie that together with that even if they do not want to go to jail because they want to get high and they want to stay out of jail, Tie that to the fact that they're all being released without bond. Tie that to the fact that Kamala Harris is out there with the Minnesota Freedom Fund bailing people out if they do get arrested at protests. This is the person that they're trying to tell us was elected as the vice president in the United States of America, who's actually bailing these people out of jail with money she's raising on Twitter. And you can go find the tweet.
Yeah.
And if she took it down, I promise you it's all over the internet. Look it up. She was asking people.
Bamboozled.
Right. Bamboozled.
Most definitely. It's interesting to think too, as we're bringing some of this stuff up, right? You know, there's a saying that goes, you know, who's worse, the crackhead or the dealer, right? So let's not look at necessarily the actual drugs themselves. Let's look at, you know, the Antifa street fighters, right? The BLMs that are out there that are causing a lot of this damage. Maybe not all of them are on drugs, you know, some of them are. But really where a lot of the bamboozling comes from is the people, you know, who passed those laws, who thought that was a good idea, right? We talked about earlier in the show, the, you know, the politicians that are telling the police to stand back and continuing to allow this to happen. So while we direct out of that, you know, a lot of our attention to like, oh, geez, Antifa out in the streets doing this. It's like looking at who's, you know, like the gray character, like you showed earlier, right? I think that gray character can be multiple people as well that are behind the scenes. And that's the, you know, who's worse, the crackhead or the dealer type thing, because, you know, it's coming from different levels here. You know, the orders are coming from different levels. It's not just the ones that are all up running around burning things. So, you know, the bamboozling is coming from those different directions, and really what's the root of the problem, right? You know, what's the root of the problem, and then what's the actual solution there? And I think some of that solution is law and order, going back to some criminal codes.
Guys, this is why you need to go sign the petitions on the website, AmericanPatriotCouncil.org. Somebody put it in the comments again, please. AmericanPatriotCouncil.org. Sign the petitions. We send those to the DOJ. Obviously, online petitions have no legal bearing, but they do show public pressure. Let's get tons of petitions. Share these with your friends. It's important. And I want to show you why I'm so concerned with the meth part of this. I know meth, and I want to show you something. So did Hitler. Nazi Germany, it's widely known that Hitler had his people dole out methamphetamine to the soldiers because they could, the reason he said was because they could march for days on end. I know this. You can stay up for weeks when you're on meth, but something else happens to people that are on meth for weeks. And that thing, imagine not sleeping for weeks. Imagine the brain fog that begins, right? It starts where they start getting a little paranoid. And then if you guys remember, Hitler was quite paranoid, but then it becomes a psychosis, and it becomes this ability to just the bloodlust and the things that you're seeing in the streets, those are methamphetamine. I am telling you from experience and from study, and telling you that Germany was using methamphetamines to give their soldiers marching orders that they could handle marching for a long time. How long have these people been marching in Seattle and Oregon?
Months.
100 and some whatever days. But yeah, absolutely, because the climate that they were fighting in, you know, the beginning stages of World War II, and that was a huge advantage that they had, right? You know, constantly go, 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 go. And these, you know, the opposition soldiers, you know, part of the Allied forces, you know, they had, you know, what are these guys doing? What are they, you know, why are they like super soldiers, you know? And so, yeah, we're kind of seeing some of them same applications. And maybe that's a good segue real quick too, while we're on that, to kind of dive into, you know, what AOC is doing, right? And I know this is a little bit of a topic change here, but, you know, when we talk about Hitler, you know, they created lists of, you know, who to boycott for, you know, Jews, right? Oh, don't do business with these Jews. They had all these lists going. Is there anybody that's watching the live stream here with us that has seen what AOC, the rep out in New York, the Green New Deal, I don't know that she would really know how to tie both shoes, but is somehow being elected to office, deciding that is a great idea. Let's put a list together of Trump supporters so we can figure out how to boycott them and what to do with them after Biden gets in. What does that sound like to you, Jason?
Sounds like Nazi Germany. We said that, though, didn't we?
Sure
4 or 5 months ago, we said, listen, we actually did a whole show on the correlation between Nazi Germany and what's going on now. And it is many others. That's right, Mike. If you go on Twitter, you can find a ton of lists. Here's a New York Post article. And I'm just going to read the caption under here. I'll let you go read the article. But Rep. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, wants to create a database of Trump supporters for blacklisting. This is a U.S. congressman, my friends. This is not
got reelected.
No, this is not. Yeah, well, we don't know about elections now. I don't think we've had a fair election in 50 years. Who knows?
Fraud.
But and I don't think that this is what something we want in America. I don't think that we should be sitting by and allowing this in America, to be honest with you.
That's alt-left fascism right there for sure. To create lists, when in America, just as of recently, right? Let me pull up real quick. I'm going to do a little bit of a screen share here real quick. I'm going to share that. We're going to go to Urban Dictionary, right? I know this isn't like a Merriam-Webster type dictionary here, but the alt-left, right? Let's talk about what the alt-left is with their definition, right? People who ban others' freedom of speech because they feel uncomfortable hearing different opinions, right? Does that sound like maybe you should go on a list? Oh, she's really uncomfortable, right, about these different opinions. When in America did you not have the opportunity to have your side spoken, as long as it's lawful, right? Everything that should happen should be lawful. And where, if it falls within inside that scope, can't you have your differing opinion? People who physically assault other individuals and damage both public and private property in the name of peace and love. Peace and love, baby, the party of tolerance, right? They hate you, right? You all been bamboozled on that one. People who care more about their selfish desires and arrogant views than about the country that they live in. I got a question here, actually, while I'm on that, care more about that than the country they live in. Here's a picture of Antifa, right? Let's not worry about this picture right here because I see an American flag here. That's patriots battling back and forth. We're not going to go there, but look at the rest of these things here. Where do we see any American flags?
You
right,
don't.
Where's this one right here? Look at these guys right here. Is there any American flags? Wait a minute. What'd we say there, right? People who care more about their selfish desires and arrogant views than about the country they live in. Oh, I don't see really anything there. Now, hold on a second here. As we look at that, what is this? This is ISIS.
Oh God.
I see some striking resemblances. Antifa.
Yeah.
ISIS.
It's all blending in together, isn't it?
Yeah, look at all these masks. These guys have all these masks on. Oh, look at this. These guys got all these masks on, right? Oh, masks. Antifa, ISIS. Antifa, ISIS.
And I'm going to bring us back to last week's rallies and protests and whatnot. And I'm going to say this. We found several, not just one, several, our security force, which we've done good to have some undercover security forces now too, which is pretty exciting. But we found, and I witnessed several people taking our pictures and uploading them to Facebook Antifa groups. Also, if you've noticed, they wear masks, and they don't wear them because they're scared of the coronavirus.
No.
In fact, we see their leaders. I've got some pictures. We've seen their leaders take their masks off and have conversations on their own off to the side. And I doubt they all live in the same house. Maybe they all live in the same car. I don't know. But no. And I want to make a distinction too. Ryan, can you put that screen share back up?
Yeah, which one do you want me to put up?
The Antifa, and you can kind of flash back and forth between ISIS and Antifa. But what I want you to know about these Antifa people, the ones So see the guy with the helmet right there? See him? See some of the ones with the shields and the body armor and things like that? Those are not the guys I just showed you. Those are the people that are inside those crowds, riling them up and giving orders. I've witnessed this at this point. This isn't me making suppositions. Ryan and I have a fan club of these guys that follows us all over the place now, everywhere we go. They look exactly like ISIS. But scroll back up just a little bit. On the left side of the screen, there it is. Look at that. There is not a difference. They are wearing burqas. They call them burqas. Over here, they call them face coverings or masks. But these guys with the barrels and the burqas, they are operatives. They are trained and they're good at surveillance. And so we have a real enemy in America. We have a real enemy, and then we have the drug addicts that they're using on the front lines to cause havoc. And we really should be mad about the use of these drug addicts. Those are American citizens that they're destroying for their cause, by the way.
I have a question.
Yeah.
When you have permission to sponsor a rally, like a whatever you want to call it, you have a permit. When they show up, when you see them coming, can't you get the police to arrest them so you don't have to deal with them at all?
I don't like to do that. And here's why. Because if they're an American citizen, they have every right to protest and do the things that we're doing. And the first time that I allow myself to let my own bias become a reason for me to go and tell the police to get rid of them. Now, if there's assaults happening or like crimes going on, absolutely we can ask the police for help. But I don't like to do that because I don't want to kick somebody out or take somebody else's rights away. And unfortunately, those people have the same rights we do until they've been arrested by the police who need to arrest them.
If they're doing something unlawful at the time, right, then yes, Nikki, you're correct in saying that they should be escorted off there. Now, the challenge with a lot of the permits that come with these First Amendment, assemblies is the fact that you don't get charged for them. So it's kind of one of those things where, hey, we know you're there. It's almost more of a heads up than anything when it comes to this, versus saying, hey, I'm paying for a permit on this day at this time. We're going to have a little baking sale. We're going to settle our stuff up there. I'm going to give you $250 for the permit. We're going to give you, this other money for this. So, once you pay for something, and if somebody comes in trying to act like a goon and destroy something, then at that point, there's a little more leverage because now you're holding an event. And you understand, we don't got to go too far into it, but that is one of the challenges there. And Jason is correct as well. You want to let them express their First Amendment rights, and at the same time, try to, not have it be a disruption. And we've experienced plenty of disruptions at our past events, and we know how that goes. And they come there for chaos. They come there for just being loud. I mean, last weekend when we were there, they were literally just standing in the middle, just pounding on a bucket. Right? Just making noise, just trying to be loud, just trying to disrupt. So they're actually taking away our freedom of speech. Right?
That's what yeah.
And that's one of the things that we're dealing with now. I was 6 years old at one time too. And that's exactly what they're acting like, is, throwing a fit like a 6-year-old. So anyways, without going too much further into that, I mean, we've totally been bamboozled to think that this alt left, these extremist, groups, absolutely bamboozled to think that they're peaceful protesters, to think that these people don't have ill intentions in mind. Again, let's go back to the fact of how many American flags do you see when they had the protest in Alabama for Ryan Kelly, right? You were all there. How many American flags were flying on the other side as we walked by with American flags, red, white, and blue everywhere, Trump flags, people driving down
right.
Yeah. You didn't feel not a one.
USA, right? The only thing we heard last week in Detroit, Jason, was F Donald Trump, F Donald Trump. Until they saw us, then it was F Ryan Kelly and F Jason Howland, right? It's like, bro,
and literally,
bro.
and as much as it's a life goal for me to have them chanting F Jason Holland and F Ryan Kelly, that means we're doing something right. But it's just the level of hate. But to bring that back just a little bit, when we talk about organized terror groups that are being mobilized, Ryan, we've seen these leaders in several cities, have we not?
We have.
We've seen them in Allendale. We've seen them in Detroit, and they know who we are, and they come and they have like specific chants made up for when Ryan and I show up, or for when American Patriot Council. They've got them for Adam and other ones too. And here's the thing about these guys. They are enemies of America. And we must, and I say this like with emphatic speech, we must end this in America. We are beyond civility. They need to be defeated, and the way that they will lawfully be defeated is by them to end up in jail or worse. We read the codes for treason earlier. I'll let you guys go back and read those 18 USC 2381 on up to 85, all address treason and everything around treason. And so go and read those, get familiar with those, because this is happening in the United States and it's happening everywhere. And it comes back again to the lack of consequence. And now what we've seen, and listen, don't make a mistake and think that this isn't related. We've seen a sitting governor, lots of sitting governors, but me living in Michigan, we've seen a sitting governor literally break the law and commit felonies and questionably commit treason. We've seen other governors commit treason, as we talked about out in Seattle, and mayors. We see the lady in Chicago, the mayor who is absolutely riling the people up against the United States. We've seen all of these things, and it's a lack of accountability. What we need from you guys, enemies of the state, that's right. What we need from everyone is to demand of the Department of Justice, of the FBI, of local prosecutors, of all of these different people, we need to demand that they are arrested and held accountable for their crimes. You do not get off scot-free because you're a public official. In fact, you're a leader. And the book I believe in says those of us who teach or lead will be judged more strictly, not less strictly. This is the difference between autocrat, no consequence. I can do whatever I want and you can't do anything about it. Autocrat, dictator, no consequence. Fascist, to civil liberties. We have liberty, and that we'll close the show up with a little talk about liberty. I think liberty works like this. Ryan, you have liberty, and I have liberty. And if we don't know each other and we're walking down the street, we both have complete autonomy over our lives. That's what liberty is. Autonomy, the ability to make our own choices, do what we want to do. Now, the only time my liberty could be in jeopardy is if I try to take your liberty from you. Then I'm putting my liberty on the line and I can be arrested. That's what laws were designed for, to protect your liberty from me or my liberty from you. And they're not there to guide us in what we should do all day. They're not there. Like somebody asked me about speeding. Yeah, if you're on the highway going 110, my liberty to travel down the highway at whatever speed I want may be hindered by the fact that I can't safely do that with you. So they make laws to keep us from infringing on each other's liberties, right? Life, liberty, and property are protected by the Constitution. And those are the ultimate things. God gave us liberty. And if you want to talk about that, how do we know it's inalienable and it's given to us by God? Because we were born with free will. Now, if you believe in God, you believe God has the power to make us do anything he wants. And oftentimes, as a Christian, the question is, why didn't he? Because God didn't want slaves. God wanted us to be loved, and you can't be loved and not have free will. You see, I don't make my wife marry me. My wife, most of the time, loves me, and that's why she married me.
You just paid her.
And so I don't make her do it. She does it out of her own free will. That is love. Tyranny is the opposite of free will, taking ownership of a person. And right now, Gretchen Whitmer thinks she owns us. Right now, Nancy Pelosi thinks she owns us. She feeds them. Right now, these people are dictators. They are fascists, and they must be destroyed in the sense of their governing. They must be stopped.
And that's exactly how I feel. Diane had said when I was speaking earlier, when I asked about as far as when you know people are there, because how many times we have to go through this, because I've been talking to a few people. When you go somewhere peacefully and you're there for whatever reason, these are your rights, these are your liberties, you can do that. When you see these people show up with these flags and they're bringing drums and they're bringing all these other things, you already feel threatened. And then it's like the same people, because like my own children are telling me that it's the same people. We're doing our own research that I don't tell a lot of people about. If they're taking your pictures, isn't that your, what is that called? You didn't give these people, you didn't say, hey, Antifa, I would love it if it put me in a centerfold. I need a Playboy spread. I didn't give these people permission to do anything. When do you say enough is enough? Because I was past it. When they threw the first brick months ago, I was past it. And then so when you say, she said, how would we be any different? If I know that you're up to no good, the footage I saw Saturday in Lansing scared the hell out of me, because it was different. There were different scenes and different speakers and things happening. And then there was something that happened by the porta potties, and I can't really explain what it was, but I didn't care for it. And like, I've been invited to go Saturday. And I'm a pretty good shot. I've been shooting. Thank you. So I have my confidence level is boosted, and I'm very accurate. I don't want to have to do that to anyone, but what part of these people out here taking pictures? They have they have posters with your name on it. They're following you around. What Mike Detmer said, Jason, when these guys start beating up old people like what happened last weekend in Lansing, is that what actually happened? Because I wasn't there. Then it's time for them to have a good old fashioned ass whooping.
And it's true. And here's the other thing that we have to do too. We have to call out our representatives that are supposed to be doing that for us. The government's job is to protect our rights. The government's job is to protect us from threats, foreign and domestic. That is it. That's the whole reason we have a government. Otherwise, we wouldn't need one. Right? And so that's what we need to make them do. Instead of trying to be a ruling class, we, the people, need to do things like we're doing with this show. Share. If you can't do anything else, share the show out. If you can go to a rally, go to a rally. If you can write a letter to your congressman, write a letter to your congressman. If you can do something, do it. Because it is we, the people, have been given God-given inalienable rights. And if we don't exercise them, they will get flabby and we won't have them. Exercise your rights. Be Americans. We've got to sign out. Anything you want to say to take us out, Ryan?
Yeah, we've covered a lot in this show here. And the idea of this show was exposing, the Democratic alt-left fascists. And that's the idea behind everything that we've shared tonight with their projection. And we've covered a lot of different topics here. And, we see it in the media, like you pointed out earlier, Jason. The constant push towards something other than what this country was founded on. We see it happening more and more every day off the things that you both have just talked about. We see it happening, in the media. We see it happening in our legislature, in our executive branches. We see it happening in our judicial branches. But I just want to have a message of hope. Right? As we talk about all of these things, and a lot of it can be like, gosh, like, are we ever going to be able to come back from this? This is so terrible, right? The hope is strong for the future, guys. And I want to share that and very sincerely know that we are the answer. We are the solution. The patriots of this country. I was speaking with a lady earlier today, and she was talking about showing up at these places and, you know, doing it all for free, right? Everything that we do here at the American Patriot Council, like I haven't taken a dime from any of it. I know either of you two, right? Everything that we do is volunteer because we love this country. We have heart in this country. We have a desire for a future for our children, for our grandchildren to live in a country that is a constitutional republic. Why our mission being to restore and sustain a constitutional government in the United States of America is so important to us and to so many. So my message as we leave here tonight is one of hope, is to take all this information, to learn, to study, to understand what's happening in this country, to understand that those of us that want law and order, those of us that love the red, white, and blue, while we get called racist, while we get called fascist, while we get called all these other names, right? I encourage you to let that not discourage you from the truth, because the truth is that God is on our side. The truth is that we are the light carrying the torch of freedom for the next generations. The truth is that together we are going to make a very great country for our children and our grandchildren to live in. And all these things being exposed in 2020, all these things we've talked about in this show is a learning spot for us to grow from. So Napoleon Hill talks about every seed or every adversity has the seed of an equivalent benefit. Guys, I am encouraging you to extract that seed of the equivalent benefit, because we have a tree to grow. We have a tree of liberty to grow. We have a tree of freedom to grow. Here on Bamboozled, we want to encourage you to do that research, be that critical thinker, go out there and figure out what it is that you can do to be part of the solution. I love you guys. Know we got your back at the American Patriot Council. If you live in Michigan, if you don't, get to Lansing on Saturday for the Stop the Steal rally.
Is there a prayer at 11 and the rally starts at 12 to 4?
Yeah, sounds good.
President Trump asked us all to write a letter as far as knowing that the election, as far as it's supposed to be, whoever's a registered voter in your household, like each one write a snail mail letter to President Trump so that he can show the DOJ and everyone that he has to deal with as far as getting his election back and him, being
this is going to end up in Congress, I do believe. So we win anyway. So, all right, I got to wrap it up, you guys. We can do that real quick, Margine.
Go for it, Jason.
Father, thank you for this day and for this opportunity to spread a word of hope and a word of peace amongst a world that's so filled with so many fascists and so many that would want to take away the free will that you gave us, the greatest gift man has. And so I ask, Lord, that you would just protect the patriots around the country as they're all gathering Saturday, and they're all gathering all over the country every day, it seems, to stand up for the greatest nation that you've ever allowed to rise up, Lord. And we ask for you to restore that nation. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Love y'all.
Love y'all.